What is going on YouTube? We're going to be talking about weight loss. And so the reality of what our lives are was the mandatory schedule that people or in reluctant moods that you have a fit about how you are not considering the absent-minded individual who happens to be a directive of you, which fat loss hindsight speaks for itself. That if you were trying to lose weight and the amount of fat that you need to lose was the hindsight and the directive of you. So to back or to see the background of what this is losing fat is like, okay, you're eating bacon and the result is you look like bacon. So that's practically what fat is. Fat is like you can't see. You wake up like little blind spots with your eyes. It kind of looks like what you've ate the last days or a couple of months ago. So if the digestive tract is a treadmill, so that's practically how people process losing weight. That they eat, they run, and then they somehow have a body that says, I look good, which is stupid. It's a build bacon build concept, right? So that's kind of like why things sound so dumb. The thing is that when you try to talk about someone who is fat, then the directive of sound is like left and right about how you hear sound waves of body fat. So if you are someone who was actually trying to lose weight, then the only concept that caloric deficit or whatever this big news flashy word was based off of body fat percentage. That's when you're actually in the mode of losing fat. If your body doesn't even bring up this conversation throughout your life or throughout the months, or you just never heard of it, then that's fine. Body fat percentage is what's left over in your body before you go into a catabolic stasis, right? So I'm just using the secondary word to explain that I don't really know what catabolic or I don't understand what these phrases are. I think they're nice to know if you happen to be a guy that just happens to understand that you are losing fat. Cool. If the whole story is how that works, well, my routine was to do a workout, and I never recommend doing workouts because workouts isn't a recovery stasis. Meaning, everything that's said in the video was about doing this mobility range of action, which means if you see someone move their arms around, it's like you're tied to a rope to their obsession of moving your arms in this directive mode, which means if they ask you to lift your arms up, grab something heavy, put it down, or whatever the motion sickness that the body ends up thinking that motion sickness is. The relativity of it is you have to take the action that if you're moving your body in the first place, then the whole vocabulary the whole story was that you wouldn't be able to just lose weight. So I lost 40 pounds in 18 hours. And if the backhand of what someone would say is, I would actually state to someone that lost 40 pounds in 3 days. I checked the amount of emotional digression and the actual time frame it would be the middle of 3 days, which is 18 hours, right? Like fat happens to has a consumption mode where it's the left side's not happening and the right side's not happening on a calorie. And that's honestly what causes it. My weight loss program is simply that you wait and wait. So if you happen to have chips in the pantry and if your activation code for chewing on food is still alive, right? So the mechanism of eating is still occurring, kind of like you're having a nightmare where you end up eating before you get there, right? So before you go to the chip, right? Before you go and eat it, that means the activation of a nightmare of you eating it occurs. So that's a pretty much the pre-order of what gaining fat is that the mechanism of chewing and then the changes of how do you stop that? Well, you have to wait before you get there. WAIT. And then as you understand the left side, so let's change the atmosphere here. So the left side is fat and the right side is protein synthesis. Synthesis basically means the process of losing fat. So you go into body fat percentage and acquiring, like, eating was never the problem. It's just the epidemic word foundation of using such words, carrying the amount of the words of what's being said. So what's being absent minded was the fact that you would end up losing fat. So the way you do it is weight and weight. So the way you lose fat is if you have to eat, and it's because there is a access of a barmaid, which is like you're served food, and there's like you pull the plastic, you pull the paper type plate under, you pull it away, and you're like, okay, so I have a hard dish that's served. So you have a hard dish, and you pull this paper plate out. That means you're the guy that doesn't want to eat, right? We all know that. That's basically enough explanation of what that would end up being. So what it is you have to at maximum, but not the word. Okay, so let me rephrase that. So what it is the approach is you the idea full. No, you eat the full. So let me start this again. So you eat full until you feel full. That's all it is. If the feeling of full doesn't occur, then the anger type fat body that are out there, and not saying that one is or what isn't. It's just what you viscerally see is, yes, you do understand that someone is or isn't. So that, or that someone is. That's what fat is. Fat is what someone actually is fat. So if I was able to lose so much weight and within an 18-hour span, yeah, the method's cool and all, but story behind it was mostly just accepting when full. That's all it was. So the the mechanism was just a plot, a story within itself about how it occurs. So yes, the left side is, oh, I ate a potato chip that was oiled. And the concept of what it is that your body retains the eating disorder in the first place. Eating disorder was that you consume something. Okay, so you consume what it is, and then you have fear. So if you feel scared, is what I meant to say. So you feel like you can't handle it, you don't like what's going on, and it's repeating. So that the repetition of what this is wasn't to consider that in the first place. It was merely that you full and feel that that's all it was. Now, to end the result of what this conversation is, yeah, eventually, after you break out of a month of doing something like that, or within a couple of weeks, you'll start losing weight drastically. Now, it's really dependent on the fact that you listen from what was said. All it is was to like that you understand that the body mechanism doesn't want to feel afraid or scared, primarily scared of gaining weight. So if the fat talking about how you will be scared, it's just a living nightmare to consider that this was a a action that you didn't realize. That's all it was.